From this Jewel Ornament of Liberation, we have touched on the subject of the Tathagata Garbha, the Buddha nature, and then to work with the body, the Buddha nature, from the 6 realms. So precious human life is the best, excellent basis to work and to see the Buddha nature. And then to do that, we need a spiritual master which encourages us, which inspires us to follow the path without mistake. So we touch on those subjects because now we are escaping some parts from this, which I really don't like it, but I was told that we have to finish this book. No, as you can see, each word, how much explanations that we can give, but you just to get the glimpse of those teachings, so that when we get some main parts, and then the rest you can read, contemplate, study all those things, and you will get much more meaning, So now here, the 4th chapter is the method. So the method is the spiritual instruction. Now first there's a brief introduction on this. Introduction to the chapter part 4. Since we have primary cause, the Buddha nature, which every sentient being endowed have this. Because of this, we just in the innate of the mind, we just desire to have peace and happiness. We don't agree with any of the physical and mental suffering. It's just natural. It's not a Buddhism. It is the reality and nature of the whole samsara. Human beings, non-human beings, equally. See? So, Buddha nature. We have come from a continuous stream since beginningless samsara. So it is at the beginning is mentioned, there's no beginning. So because of this, because of this, at some time we must have gained a precious human life during this beginningless time. And also sometimes we must have met with a spiritual master. So what faults have prevented us from attaining Buddhahood in the past? So now this is also very critical questions which we may not have idea. So Gampopa, for us, he asked these questions, So you can think, what went wrong? What happened? No, we don't like suffering. We like happiness. But still we are not free from samsara. What happened? So the answer is, we have been overpowered by the 4 obstacles. Not necessarily all the 4, but maybe by 1, 2, 3, not possible, or maybe for all. Then what are these? Then what are these 4 obstacles to attain the obstacles to the attainment of Buddhahood? So we went through 4 obstacles, or any of 1, 2, 3, So now how we can dispel, overcome these obstacles? Just contemplate carefully. Here now the answer is here. Being attached to this life's activities. No? Even we as a Buddhist, we know there's a Buddhahood, there is a nirvana, but our whole body, speech, mind is dedicated just to this life. No? Only focus this life success, attached to this life. So this is one obstacle. No? Being attached to the pleasure of samsara. Sometimes maybe we think for next life. Then, so we think next life, may I be born as a human being or in the God realm to have the samsaric success, fame. No, that's true. Being attached to peace. Some maybe we want to free from samsara, but we are not thinking of others. I want to free from samsara by myself, just for me. I'm not interested to everybody, So that's one obstacle. And not understanding the method by which enlightenment is achieved. Then, I want to attain Buddhahood, but I don't know how. So this, any of those 4 or 2, 3, so we are, face the obstacles. This prevented us to free from samsara. See? So this is a very important point. Just look carefully. How can these obstacles be dispelled? Now, how we can be free from these obstacles? They are dispelled by practicing the instructions heard from the spiritual master. See, here's the word by practicing. It's not just intellectualizing. It's not just understanding. First study, then practice. These two together will help us to overcome these obstacles. Now, so how many instructions of the spiritual master are there? There are 4 obstacles that we faced in the past. How many instructions are there to dispel these obstacles? The summary now to the answer. Meditation on impermanence. 1. Meditation on the falls of samsara and cause and result. 2. Meditation on loving kindness and compassion. 3. And the various elements of cultivation of bodhicitta. There are many causes of condition through which we cultivate bodhicitta. So this is it. These four comprise the instructions of the spiritual masters. See, such a to the point, bring together all the concise. To restate, to make more clear, see, there are those four instructions. Instructions on the meditation practice regarding impermanence. Instructions on the meditation practice regarding reflection on the falls of samsara and on cause and its result. Instructions on the meditation practices regarding loving kindness and compassion, and instructions on how to cultivate bodhicitta. So how to put clearly, Now, thus contemplating the subject of impermanence remedies attachment to this life's activity. When you reflect on the impermanence, that's the reality in our life is not just Buddhist philosophy. It's not something Buddha created. That's how our life is natural of impermanence. So touch the reality. Live life one day at a time. See how everything's changing. So look, that helps us to free from the attachment of this life alone. Reflecting on the falls of samsara, and fall of samsara means the suffering of samsara. From the God realm to the hell realm, everyone, the most powerful person, the most successful person, to the person who have nothing, everyone has their own problem. They are suffering. And then, and its result, remedies, Yes, reflecting on the falls of samsara and on karma cause and its result. So what's the cause of the suffering and its results? That remedies attachment to the pleasure of the samsara. Third, meditating on the loving kindness and compassion remedies attachment to the pleasure of peace. Means just attachment one's own peace and happiness. When we learn to practice loving kindness, mitra, karuna, compassion to all sentient beings, then you feel that you are just one single person. Sentient beings are countless. How I can attach to my own peace? I must do something for others. So that releases our obstacles, attachment to oneself. Cultivating the supreme bodhicitta, the supreme bodhi citta, bodhi, enlightened mind, citta, mind, enlightened mind. That mind is the supreme mind. We have so many thoughts in our mind, but the mind which desire to attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings, that mind is the most excellent mind, most precious. See? It's the antidote for not understanding the method by which to achieve enlightenment. So see, so these four, first abbreviating how to overcome these four obstacles that we face in the samsara. Now here, these are the factors used to cultivate the mind and to develop bodhicitta. Now the following, see, this all. See, from the time one starts taking refuge. So now, so I want to take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. From there, taking refuge until one meditates on the meaning of two selflessnesses. There are two selflessnesses. Selflessness of person and selflessness of phenomena. Two. Or from the 5 parts. Part of accumulation, part of preparation, part of special insight, part of the meditation, and no more meditation or the part of perfection. From the 5 parts until the 10 bhumis, from first bhumi to the 10 bhumis, all Dharma teachings, all these Dharma teachings are included in the cultivation of bodhicitta. See, all the Buddha's teachings basically is saying included within the practice of bodhicitta. such a clear statement. This is some practices form the foundation from which to cultivate enlightenment. For example, like taking refuge, taking like 5 precepts, or monks and nuns precepts. So they become the foundation, basis to cultivate bodhicitta. And some are the objects of the cultivation of the mind. Some say the Buddha is the object that you want to achieve for the benefit of all sentient beings. So sentient beings are also object. To benefit all sentient beings, then say you want to attain Buddhahood. So that, some are method to cultivate the mind, some are how to cultivate bodhicitta. What kind of ceremony is there? Some are the training in the cultivation of the some are the training of the cultivation. Then how to train the mind, like the aspiration bodhicitta, how to train that mind. Action bodhicitta, like 6 paramitas. So these are to train the bodhicitta, the mind. And some are the beneficial effects of the cultivation of the mind. So when we practice bodhicitta, how much benefit we get? Peace, joy, all the excellent qualities for oneself and for others. By practicing bodhicitta, how much we can purify all our mental delusions like anger, attachment, so forth. These all are beneficial effects. And some are the result of cultivation of the minds, like attain Buddhahood. So, Buddhahood is the perfection of the bodhicitta. Total freedom of all the delusion and suffering. So all the minor teachings are included in the cultivation of the mind, bodhicitta. Therefore, all these teachings, instructions are imparted by the spiritual master. So how spiritual master is important, and why the spiritual master has to have good qualities. See? Depend on the spiritual masters. So this all depends on the spiritual masters. Planting the noble stock, Sutra says, the spiritual master is the source of all the various teachings. The attainment of omniscience depends on the instruction of the spiritual masters. So this is a brief introduction on this spiritual master's instruction method. So now, next is the antidote to attachment to this life, which is the chapter 4, Impermanence. Of these, the four of these, the first instruction is meditation on impermanence as the antidote to attachment to this life. In general, all composite means which is composed basis on the many causes and conditions. So those composite phenomena are impermanent. Buddha said, Buddha was now speaking to all his monks. So all monks, all composite phenomena are impermanent. Because we are grasping this and that and this. When Buddha spoke about this, they are grasping. The grasping mind just totally released. all are impermanent. We are so stressed, due to all our grasping. So when Buddha says this, our stress are released, eases our mind. Oh yes, I can understand. It's a very powerful statement. Now here, all monks, all nuns, all Dharma practitioners, or everybody can use this. Now, in what way are the impermanence? How we understand impermanent? Touch the reality. Not just vague, everything is impermanent. Gampopa asked this very special question here. Now here, as you see, the end of accumulation is dispersion. Means in our life, as we know, we work so hard to accumulate wealth, so much. Then, after some time, this all the accumulation wealth is consuming, going away step by step, slowly. Like the bees' honey. All the bees, they keep so busy collecting honey, And after a lot of accumulation of the honey, somebody takes away. They have no time to enjoy. Then we cry, I work so hard and now somebody is taking this away. Somebody took this away like this, At the end, we don't have really enough time to enjoy them. Something is kind of disappearing. At the end of all construction is fallen. We built houses, road. This construction is not just a building, road, houses, then aeroplanes, train, motor, the vehicles, all this we built so much. After some time, they are destroyed, they are fallen. Made a beautiful road. After a few years, the roads are falling off, Likewise, buildings. How much we are working hard to keep the house. There's sometimes the electricity problem. Sometimes there's a plumb system problem. Water problem, sewage system problem. Just keeping this. Why we are keeping this? To have some happiness, joy. But how much you can enjoy and how much you go through suffering. Look at this. Then the third, the end of meeting is separating. We meet family, husband and wife. Then they are born children. We meet friends. But at the end, we have to separate. How much we love each other, how much we care each other. When they're dying, we are crying so much. I don't want to let them go, but no choice. It's nature. So now look at this reality nature. How much people are now who are suffering on this. See. And the fourth, see, the end of life is death. We are born one day and will die one day. That's definite. That's where Nagarjuna said, When you know that you are born, then you will see, you will understand one day you will die. When you understand birth and death, you understand impermanence. When you understand impermanence, then Dharma may come to your mind and you may understand the Dharma. So just these four subjects, it encompasses all the phenomena that are composites are impermanent. Such you see. Just look at these four subjects and then just look in our mind everywhere. Buddhist, non-Buddhist, believer, non-believer, everybody are in this institution, in the institution of this impermanence now. Or we all are constituted in this institution of impermanence. So now, when you know this well, doesn't mean you don't care your life. As a matter of fact, we know how to care better. We can do better when we know this. So then, when we know these things, when these things happens, then we say, yeah, that's the nature of impermanence. I can accept. No, I have no choice. When we are not ready to this, we are so attached to our wealth. We are so attached to what we have built. We are so attached to our, as mentioned, our group, family. We are so attached to myself. So when something happens, then there's so much suffering. So much confusion is there. You can't accept. How much suffering is there? More suffering is there. When you know these things well and practice, see, here is mentioned, practice, meditation, impermanence. Yes, I understand. That's right. Even I don't agree, even I don't like it, but I have no choice. Practice these things. When something happens, your mind is not so much damaged. Your mind is not so much destroyed by pain through this. You accept. So how important is? So impermanence is subject which we understand very easily because it's very clear, very vivid in front of us. We can see it. There's no argument, So since there's no argument, reflect on this. Accept this. Then follow whatever is happening, we follow with it. There's one story at the Milarepa. I'm sure many of you know Milarepa, who was great, successful, should say, Dharma practitioner who attained Buddhahood in one lifetime. And he possessed nothing. He renounced everything, went to the mountain. What he has was just a clay pot to cook the nettles. That's it. One day he walked to another place carrying his clay pot. And then it's so rocky, he fall down on the road. And because he fall down, the clay pot is broke. So now, see, only clay pot he has, that's broken. Now what is there? As soon as he saw this, the impermanence what he was practicing become reality. No? And then he was so amazed to see this, and he was started singing, The clay pot just I had is now broken, he said. This is only my wealth that I have. Now this became my great teacher who taught me these teachings. And I thank you for this teaching. It symbolizes all phenomena which are composite, especially this precious human life. Now he was so amazed and he was so grateful the fresh teaching that he received from this. He was not worrying what should I do next, For us, we will worry now, First we will say, I'm so unlucky, I have nothing, I have only part is broken, now how I can survive, We'll cry, we go to places, people say, now everything's gone, I have nothing, But Milarepa was completely enjoying this. See, depends how our reaction, understanding of the phenomena, reality, nature. And then he said the verses spoken intentionally say, the result of all accumulation is dispersion, the result of construction is fallen, all who meet together separate, the end of life is death. So that is the quotation for this teaching. How we do meditate on this, or how do we meditate on this? The summary, classification, method of meditation, and beneficial effects of the meditation. These three comprise all the contemplation on impermanence. The classification, as to classification, there are two types. A, permanence of the outer wall, and B, impermanence of the inner sentient beings. It's also impermanence. In addition, impermanence of outer wall is categorized in two parts: gross impermanence and subtle impermanence. The inner wall is also categorized in two parts: impermanence of others and impermanence of oneself. So we meditate these things. Then other things are easy to reflect on, And please just also to meditate further. Page 85 is in the second, the impermanence of oneself. That we also have to go to another life without choice. Not, of course, so all others, oneself as well. This may be understood by this: investigating impermanence within oneself, and by A, and then B, by applying others' impermanence to oneself. First, the A, investigating impermanence within oneself. This looks like sometimes a little scary, but then if you carefully look at it, it helps real to understand. See, meditate on the first, one in these ways. Now there are a few kind of topics. Meditate on death is one. Meditate on the characteristics of death. What means death? Meditate on on life's exhaustion. So 1, 2, 3, and meditate on separation. Now first, to meditate on death, one should think I myself cannot stay long, in this world, and will have to go to the next life. Just meditate on this. I'm born in this world. Now one day I will die and go to the next life. Just reflect on this. Just say, I have to leave everything here behind. Then it says, contemplate this. So think about this. Meditate on this. Next, say, meditate on the characteristics of death by contemplating. What means death? See, means my life ends. Now, even you live 100 years, 200 years, but still one day will die. So that means life ends. This breath ceases. We're breathing out and in. That stops. This body becomes corpse. The body we cherish so much. I cannot bear a small pain. If I'm hungry, I cannot stay hungry. When I'm thirsty, I have to have some drink. So this, whatever we cherish, this body becomes a corpse. And this mind has to wander in different places. Then mind leaves the consciousness leaves the body and then go to different places, wandering aimlessly. Simply contemplate this. Just meditate on this occasionally. So then that is the second one, contemplating on the characteristics of the death. Meditate on the exhaustion of life by contemplating these ways. Now, even right now I'm young, but life goes. Every day is exhausting, getting shorter and shorter. We are not getting longer, So this is the way he said, from last year until now, 1 year has passed. Last year we celebrated New Year. Now this year I'm celebrating new 1 year. So 1 year is past. So say, pass. By that moment my life has become shorter. From last month to this 1 month has passed. From September, now it's October, going to finish, isn't it, soon? So 1 month is passing. This way my life is shorter, and my life is that much shorter. Then from yesterday to today is 1 day. Yesterday I woke up, start my day. Now today, 1 day passed. That much my life is shorter, And by this much my life is shorter. The moment that just passed right now in the passing of one moment. Just say, this morning we got here, got together. Now morning is past. We had lunch. After lunch, now we're here. To say this much time, look at the time, much shorter. See. So by that measure, my life is shorter. So look at this. That I'm attached to so much these things. what really does help. No? This is not a negative thinking. Some people think this is so negative thinking. Be a positive. This is the best positive thinking. Real will bring peace in the life. No? People have some, or some people say, this is frightening, This scares me. Let me don't think this, Let me enjoy my life. Don't be so negative, thinking of the impermanence. Why, let me enjoy my life, whatever time I have, But actually, at the end, we get so much benefit. See? So it's engaging in the contact of the Bodhisattva, Shantideva says, definitely remaining neither day nor night. Day and night, we don't, said, well, passing through, basically, passing through. Life is always slipping by and never getting any longer. Every day we pass, life is getting shorter and shorter, not getting longer. See? Why will death not come to one like me? That will come. So we're preparing to face the death, see. So that is contemplating how the time is passing through. Meditate on separation by contemplating, say, right now, whatever I have with me, my relatives, my family, my wealth, my house, all this you can see, and then this body, I have this body, and so forth, that I cherish so much. Sometimes I risk my life, I sacrifice myself for these things. Now, none of these can accompany me forever. They will not help me at time of death, after death, next life. I have to leave everything behind when the breath is stopped. So say, contemplate this, see, contemplate that, see it, and then release the attachment. When you release the attachment or aversion, then that really eases your mind. I can breathe peace. The engaging in the contact of Bodhisattva says, up until now, I did not understand or I didn't aware that I would have to leave all things behind. I have to leave my family. I have to leave behind enemies, wealth, all this I have to leave at the time of death. So this is, for us in this, meditate this. So this is a very comprehensive, very helpful, direct, The rest you can read and contemplate just to support, to get help. Then please open page 91, number 3, beneficial effects of meditation on the impermanence. So awareness of the impermanence of all composite phenomena leads one to release attachment to this life. So as you go through this step by step, meditate on, and then you see impermanence. The word impermanence means no essence, because it keeps changing. Like this beautiful flower, today we arrange so beautifully, the next day it's gone. So it has no essence. which means, as I mentioned, it doesn't mean we don't care. We don't care our life. We don't care others. Actually, what it means is we care better. No? So we will need peace and happiness today. We'll need peace and happiness tomorrow. We will need peace and happiness next year and next life. As today we sacrifice so much for our happiness, likewise we'll do next. No? So we make a better plan. It's like a wise investment. No? With the wisdom, then we do the right thing without making mistake. This life, how much I attach to this flower. Oh, I like this and that. Then when it fades, then there's a lot of suffering. I don't like this. I don't want to happen this. What should I do, My attentions, my effort, so much goes here. But without choice, it fades. See? So instead, I try to keep it as fresh as possible. When it goes, then let go. No? So release my attachment. So see, this world is changing. As I mentioned, Milarepa, he took care of his part, carrying with him. But when he's broke, instead of his suffering, he gained such great wisdom, realization. This is what symbolizes everything. I'm so grateful to reminding this teaching in my life. It reinforces your practice, taking refuge, cultivating bodhicitta, Father, because that will bring all the peace and happiness, not by attachment to this thing. See? So it releases attachment to this life. Father, it nourishes faith, support, perseverance. See, reminding of the impermanence, it nourishes our perseverance. I must practice more. I just sit and do practice, as I mentioned, like bodhicitta, loving kindness, compassion. Because of impermanence, we can progress, make better and better. If it's not impermanent, we cannot progress our practice. So decrease all the cause of suffering and promote all the cause of peace and happiness. See, that's the reason why we need reflection on the impermanence. And also, like enemy, when you have somebody irritates you, look at them. They are also impermanent. They are also suffering. So release that aversion. Release our negative thought to those. Instead, develop more bodhicitta. May they have better peace and happiness. So this is how important. And quickly frees one from attachment and hatred, you see. Very quickly, swiftly will help us to release our attachment, to release our hatred. Which means our mind becomes free. We need our mind more free. That way we can get benefit so much to ourselves, and we can give benefit to others so much. Actually, when you have friends, families, if you help them without attachment, you can better do that. They can get better help. When we're attached to them, we hate them, try to help them, mind becomes very narrow. No? Sometimes due to our attachment, instead of we're helping, we're hurting them. They say, no, please be distant, No. If we help them when they need it, without that attachment, they get much better help. So this thing, one, you see, it becomes a cause for the realization of the equal nature of all phenomena, means emptiness. Meditating on the impermanence, which also helps us to realize emptiness. See, past is past, not here now. Future is not yet here. So, in between, past, present, past, future, past, future, past, future, there's no present. We cannot find a present something independent. So that is emptiness. So this has such great wisdom. Through the practice of impermanence, by releasing our attachment, hatred, grasping, fixation, then we can easily realize emptiness. So this is the fourth chapter dealing with the impermanence of all composite phenomena from the Jewel Ornament of Liberation, the wish-fulfilling gem of the noble teachings. Then next, antidote to attachment to samsara's pleasure, chapter 5, the suffering of samsara. You may think that it is fine that impermanence causes us to die because you will be reborn again, and once you are reborn, you will have an opportunity to enjoy all the glorious pleasure of gods and humans, and that will be sufficient for you or for me. So we talk about all the impermanence. So they say, it's okay if I die. It doesn't matter. I'll be again reborn in the human or in the God realm. Then I will enjoy all this, the wealth, the magnificent condition of the human realms and the God realm. So I say here, such thinking typifies one who is attached to samsara's pleasure. So this shows that we're attached to the samsara's pleasure. As the antidote to this attitude, one should meditate on the forms of samsara, meditate or contemplate. Now, is the real essence to enjoy or not? To the summary, all pervasive suffering, this all pervasive or suffering of condition. Likewise, suffering of change, second. And the third, the suffering of suffering. These three constitute the forms of samsara. All in samsara, see, are within these three categories. One or another one. First look at this, At the time of Buddha taught this. As mentioned, 2,000 about 600 years ago. That time, the world is not that open, and there's no transportation, See, but now, because of all the transportation, all these, informations, whole world is opened, and everything is under this nature, This you can see how Buddha's wisdom is amazing, First of all, just look at this. Then here, if these three sufferings were explained by simile, with example, the all-pervasive or suffering of conditions would be like unripe fruit, like a cancer. Before the cancer ripen, Just example. Before you have not noticed cancer, there's no special pain there. The suffering of change would be like eating poisonous rice. I think that time rice is very delicacy, So there's a poison in the rice. The rice is very delicious. You don't notice there's a poison. And the suffering would be like mold on fruit. Or now the cancer is, as you can see, the cancer is obvious. Like that, So this one way to understand these three different types of suffering. If one explains these three suffering with their definition, all pervasive suffering or the suffering of a condition would be a neutral feeling. So very neutral. There's no feeling of good or there's no feeling of bad. Just neutral. The suffering of change would be a feeling of pleasure, like the eating the poisonous rice. You are eating such a delicacy. And the suffering of suffering would be a feeling of suffering, actual physical, mental suffering. See, if the primary characteristics of these three sufferings were explained, we would see that we are pervaded by suffering the moment the afflicted skandhas exist, or the moment the afflicted the second skandha we have. The moment it functions, the suffering is pervaded or under the condition of suffering. Now this to explain first, you see, the all-pervasive suffering or suffering of the condition. Ordinary people will not feel the all-pervasive suffering or suffering of a condition as a suffering. For example, when one is stricken with a serious plague or epidemic, a small pain in the ears and so forth is not noticeable. When you have small pain there in the ears, when there's a big plague, epidemic sickness is there, you don't feel that, because that is overpowered. The small pain is overpowered by the big suffering. But the saintly beings, the noble ones beyond samsara, such as stream interest, that there are four fruit. Say when you're free from samsara, it's called stream interest. Once returning, no returning, then arahats. See, so forth. We'll see all pervasive suffering conditioned suffering as a suffering. As for example, when one is nearly recovered from a plague, the epidemic, sickness, disease, and the small pain of an ear infection is experienced as suffering. So this is one example to understand the pervasive suffering or the suffering of condition, as to see it as a suffering. There's another example. When a hair is in the palm of your hand, there's no suffering. So in your hand, there's a piece of hair is there. Would you feel pain, uncomfortable? You won't say, oh, I feel so uncomfortable in my hand because the hair, You won't say that. There's no suffering or discomfort. But when the very hair goes into your eye, there is a suffering and discomfort. That hair in your hand goes to the one of the eye, then you will feel very uncomfortable. So, likewise, with these examples, this all pervasive suffering or suffering of condition will not be felt as a suffering by ordinary people, but will be seen as a suffering by the noble beings, the arhats, bodhisattvas, Buddha. The commentary on the treasury of Abhidharma says, when one hair from the palm of the hand goes to the eye, there will be discomfort and suffering. The childish, ordinary people, like the palm of the hand, are not aware of the hair of all pervasive suffering or suffering of condition. Sadly, the arahats are like the eye and will feel the pervasive suffering or suffering of the condition as a suffering. Okay. Now maybe we go to the suffering of change. Is good to go, so we know this suffering of change. The second type, the suffering of change, is so-called suffering of change because all the pleasure and happiness of samsara will eventually change into suffering. The White Lotus of Great Compassion Sutra says, the kingdom of the God is the cause of suffering. All the human kingdom are also a cause of suffering. Therefore, even if one gain a universal monarchy, it's called mythically, it's called universal monarchy over human beings, that would eventually change to suffering. The letter to a friend says by Nagarjuna, even if one becomes a universal monarch, one will fall into slavery in samsara. Not only that, even one who achieved the bhakti and enjoyment of Indra, the king of gods, would eventually die and fall. Again, the letter to a friend says, even though one becomes the Indra, who is the praiseworthy by all the gods, one will fall down to the earth by power of karma. Not only that, one who achieved the state of the Brahma, means it's beyond the now desire wall, it's a samadhi wall, or form wall, and so forth. The king of the gods who transcended the desire wall and who experience the pleasure of meditative concentration would eventually fall. The letter to a friend says, one who achieves the pleasure and happiness of the Brahmahood, free from the desire world, will again become the fuel of avijji and the hell run, and suffer continuously. So this is suffering of change that is very easy, we can see. Nowadays, the leader of the country is very powerful. Everybody wants to achieve that state. But as soon as you gain that state, there's so much suffering. There's so much pressure. Very clear, isn't it? It's the suffering of change. Now, suffering of suffering. Now, the third, the suffering of suffering is the appearance of all the greater suffering in addition to the suffering which pervades the moment when we have the afflicted skandha. So suffering of suffering means having the pervasive suffering or the suffering of condition. On above that, the actual appearance of the suffering, that's called suffering of suffering. Within this category, one should understand two types of sufferings: suffering of lower realms and suffering of the higher realms. If one were to explain the first type, the lower realms consists of these three: the suffering of the hell realm, the suffering of hungry spirits, and the suffering of animal realm. So these all are easy to understand how much they have suffering when you read step by step, And so I don't have to go through so in detail. And look at the page 100. There's one special, very important, clarification. In the hell realm, there's mentioned that guardians, there are different types of beings which tortures in the hell realm and so forth. So the guardians of hell realm, the yamas in the human form, and ravens with the iron beaks and so forth, are they sentient beings or not? That is a very important question. Which explains down in the hell or somewhere down there, all these things are torturing, as you see some drawing pictures in the hell realm. So the Vivasika schools say there are 4 schools, Vivasika school, Sautantrika school, Yogacharya school, Madhyamika school. There are 4. So the first one, Vivasika school say there are sentient beings. And then Sautantrika school say there are not sentient beings. Yogacharya school and the lineage of Marpa and Mila say that they manifest in the minds of the sentient beings by the power of those beings' evil deeds, the result of the evil deeds. In relation to this, engaging in the conduct of the Bodhisattva, the Bodhisattva by Shantideva says, who intentionally created all weapons for those in hell, who created the burning iron ground, from where did all the women in hell ensue? The sage means the Buddha, the sage means Buddha, has said that all such things are the workings of an evil mind. So manifestation of our negative thought. So this is very important, This, what it's saying is, for us like ordinary people who we don't have so much understanding, realization of the emptiness, everything as an illusion, we perceive as real. This is a source of peace and happiness. This is a source of suffering. I like this because this. I don't like this because this. So we have this dualistic mind. In that we cannot deny. We see these things. We experience these things. Now, when you study, practice more, like impermanence, you understand more impermanence. Then you see just a manifestation. They come and they dissolve, like the waves of ocean. Illusory nature, you see this. Then you see outside is just a manifestation, not so much to react according to our attachment, aversion. Is you see all is the play of the mind. Then when you go further, more understanding, like bodhicitta, loving kindness, compassion. Then you see all sentient beings as your mother. And then when you go a little further in Vajrayana, like say, like Konyen, Chenresik, Tara, practicing this, then all the sentient beings, nothing but nature of Chenresik, nature of Tara, Buddha. See, then all are just, like a rainbow. We just see, but no any substantial. So this is a very important point for us, especially like nowadays. This age of science, technologies, Because when you say, for ordinary people say we need some designation, so hell is down there, we need that, you see. Otherwise, it's somewhere else and no idea. But then when you understand more, practice more, then all in the mind, mental manifestation. You see, because like, for example, a person, when I like that person, I perceive such a wonderful person, very friendly, with good qualities, compassionate, helps me so much. Then when I perceive that person as a negative, he's a source of my suffering. He irritates me. All the suffering I receive from him, that person is the same person. When he's my friend, and it's the same person when he becomes my enemy. But it's my mind's reaction, how it does, you see. So like that, when you see this way, that's why Buddha's teachings say loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, then illusory nature, then emptiness, you see. Then everything's mind's play. Then it becomes nirvana, you see, as we talked about. All this very place is place of nirvana. When we have negative, this place is very in the hell realm. So this is what he's saying. This is a very important kind of clarification. How says Gampopa, you see, he writes such a great point. So why we need to practice Dharma? As I mentioned, not as a religion, not as a Buddhism, but as a way how to solve all our confusion and how to free from the suffering. Then page 103, the suffering of the higher realms are categorized into three types. Do you see that? Please see that. That's the suffering of human beings, the suffering of demigods, and the suffering of gods. In the human realm, the sufferings, there are 8 different types in the human realms. The Enduring the Womb Sutra says, birth, the day when you are born, the birth is also a suffering. Getting old age is also a suffering. So when you get sick, sickness is also a suffering. Death is also a suffering. Separating from loved ones is also suffering. Meeting with those who are not dear like enemy is also suffering. Not finding what we desire is also suffering. And the pain of protecting what we already have is also suffering. So these 8 in the human realm, whether rich or poor, anybody, so we go through this. So we don't have to go detail. If you read, you find very easy, to read. Then after that, see, look at the page 108, just at the bottom. Therefore, let's look at the bottom, before the quotation. See. Therefore, this state of samsara is of the nature of great suffering. So samsara overall, from the God realm to the hell realm, is nature of great suffering. Like a house of blazing fires, the Enduring the Womb Sutra says, alas, the Buddha is saying, alas, the ocean of samsara is a blazing, extreme blessing, supremely blessing. There's not blessing, burning, and supremely extreme blessing. Therefore, there is not one sentient being who is not tortured by it. So that's then, what kind of fire is it that blazes so greatly? So it is the fire of desire, attachment, the fire of aversion, anger, hatred, and the fire of ignorance, the fire of birth, old age, and death. These blaze and burn constantly by the fire of suffering. So everybody in the world is the world suffering, Lamentation, distress, and conflict. Therefore, no one is free from them. They are on the way, they are under their control, always like that. Thus, now, when one is aware of falls of samsara, this way, when you see the nature of the samsara, the falls of samsara, one will withdraw from the pleasure of samsara. Means one will not attach to the samsaric pleasure. It's all just deceiving. We are tortured by this. The meeting of father and son sutra says, when one sees the falls of samsara, one will develop a great sense of sadness. Great compassion can rise from there, you see. So, to develop great compassion, we have to see the suffering of sentient beings. When one fears the prison of the 3 realms, one will make an effort to avoid them. Then one will totally renounce the samsara. The Acharya Nagarjuna also said it this way. Samsara is like this. There are no good rebirth among the gods, humans, hell beings, hungry spirits, and animals. Understand that birth is the vessel of many suffering. The birth is the beginning of all the suffering, in the world. This is the 5th chapter dealing with the suffering of samsara from the Jewel Ornament of Liberation, the wish-fulfilling gem of the noble teachings. Chapter 6, Karma and its result. You may wonder what causes the suffering that were just explained. So all the suffering. In the Four Noble Truths, Buddha said, you should know the suffering. So that's what is explained. Now avoid the cause of suffering. So we are learning the cause of the suffering, which is the karma. One should know that they come from the karma, action of afflicted action, you see. Karma of the afflicted action. Thus the Sutra of the 100 Karma says, from many diverse causes of karma were created the diversity of these migrators. See how wonderful, no? Because there are so many diversity of the karma. Even in one individual's life, we have so many different types of experiences. Sometimes real big suffering, sometimes little suffering. So much. From the White Lotus of Great Compassion Sutras, this world is produced by karma. This world is manifest by means of karma. All sentient beings are produced by karma. They appeared through the cause, karma. They are fully classified by karma. See. Sometimes people, when they don't know karma, people say, Buddhists believe karma. No. So when you believe karma, and there's a karma. If you don't believe karma, there's no karma. What do you think? If that's the case, better not believe karma. Why we bother, ourselves? Since there is not case, karma is whatever we do, physically, mentally, it becomes a cause to manifest result. So therefore, see, what we need, what we want, see it precisely, and then we create karma accordingly. That's the purpose of the study and practice. See? So we are so fortunate, you see. We should see this. We are so fortunate having this opportunity, as a precious human life. Now you can more appreciate precious human life, so we can understand what means karma. Also, the treasury of the Abhidharma, Bhasabandhu says, the various worlds are created by karma. Then, what is karma? The karma of the mind and the karma of the thought. The collection of Abhidharma says, what is karma? It is the karma of mind and karma of thought. And also the treasure of Abhidharma says, Bhasabandhu, the karma is created by mind and by its force, mind's force. Also the fundamental treatise of Middle Way says, the Supreme Rishi means Buddha. Buddha is the Supreme Rishi. Said, all karmas from the mind and its thought. See, what are these two? What means karma of the mind and karma of its thought? Karma of mind is the karma of consciousness, mentally created. That which is created by the mind is the mind's thought. This should be understood as the karma of the body and speech. So then, from the mind we create karma. Then we think something, good or bad, then action comes from the body and speech. That's what the karma we make through the mind and the body and speech. The treasury of Abhidharma says, mind is the karma of consciousness, and its force, the karma of the body and speech, manifests. To explain these kind of karma and result created by their force, the summary, see now, classification, primary characteristics, ascription, and a strict result, increase from the small and inevitability. These six comprise karma and its results. Through these six topics will explain karma. First, the classification. There are three types of karma and result. Non-meritorious karma means non-virtuous karma and result. Meritorious karma and result. And the karma and result of unshakable meditative concentration. So these are now there. So first he said the primary characteristic of each classification. First, the non-meritorious karma and its result. Generally, there are numerous non-meritorious actions, but they are briefly summarized at 10, see, called 10 non-virtue, 10 non-meritorious. Say 3 from the bodies, say taking life, and stealing, and then sexual misconduct, say taking life and so forth. 4 from speech, telling lies, and harsh word, and divisive speech, and idle talk. So this from 4, and so forth. And 3 from the mind, covetousness, attachment, harmful thought, and wrong view, or ignorance, and so forth. So these are 3 categories of each of these 10 classification result and distinctive action. So this will explain more details. So first we understand this first, as earlier I mentioned, these are not just Buddhist belief. Anybody in the world, educated, uneducated, whatever religion they believe, doesn't matter. Anybody who engages in of these non-meritorious karma, it causes the suffering. Very clear, you see. So Buddha's teaching is not just, as I mentioned, Buddhism. Buddha's teaching is the cause of the peace and happiness, the cause of the suffering. In other words, explanation. Giving us such a great wisdom to know things, how they function. So if anybody engages this will bring suffering. If anybody engages this will bring happiness. See, in the samsara and get out of samsara. So that's the Buddha's teaching. It's called mode of abiding. Explanation of the mode of abiding disposition of every individual phenomena and their existence. So then rest with it. Now each karma, negative karma, there's a result. There's a life through say results is the three results. Result of taking life, the result of it's called the result of maturation of the act, the result similar to cause, and also result similar to there's a similar to cause and a similar to the experience, and the general result of the force. So each karma brings the four different results. You see, just look at, like when you plant the mango seed on the ground, then it brings the trunk, branches, leaves, flowers, and fruit. Like this.
The question here is that in chapter 3, the spiritual master, regarding the similes of escort, the spiritual master is like an escort, leading us to reach destination without any danger of losing life of favorable conditions, losing wealth of virtue to inner discursive thought and afflictive emotion, outer maras and evil spirit. Can Rinpoche explain what does it mean to lose wealth of virtue to inner discursive thought?
This regarding to the spiritual master as an escort, you see, like when you go to retreat, for example, then in the retreat there's a lot of confusion rises, a lot of conflicts manifest in your mind. Then you go to the spiritual master, a retreat master, explain your experiences, the difficulties you are facing. So, like in the inner mind, now, a lot of these negative thoughts are coming. How I should deal with this? Or outer, obstacles are coming. How should I deal this? Then the spiritual master will explain, give you guidance according to these teachings there, depending to the individuals. And sometimes, because we are seeing everything is real, or attached to samsara, to this spiritual master should give instruction, everything is impermanent, as explained. No? Everything is changing. You understand that. There's nothing to attach. See? And then when there's anger comes in the mind, resentment manifests in the mind during the retreat. So I cannot deal with this. Why should I do? And the spiritual master explains, when the anger comes, they are just reflection of your mind. The resentment you have, it just manifests as a reflection. Like when the moon is in the leg, there's a reflection of the moon in the leg. So in your mind, whatever is manifesting is just reflection. So understand this is everything's illusory nature. So your anger is just manifestation. It's all temporary. It's all conditional. And those to whom you have anger, develop compassion, loving kindness, because they are also suffering. If they have no suffering, they will not cause you to suffer. So look at that. then themselves are suffering. So it is your responsibility to purify your mind and then extend your love and compassion to all others, including that individuals. So that's what it's saying. The spiritual master is like escort. There's a danger losing your Dharma practice when there's strong attachment, when there's strong aversion, conflict. So according to the needs of the individuals, the spiritual master explains and guides to follow the path.
Since Sravakas practice metta and karuna, what are the difference between the practice between Sravakas and Mahayana practitioner?
Of course, this practice will come later in the chapter. Metta, loving kindness, and karuna, compassion. First of all, you see, Buddha's teaching is non-violence. A religion of the non-violence, not to harm to oneself and not to harm to others. So to do this successfully, we need the practice of metta, loving kindness, and compassion. When we could do this practice, first understand, study, everyone desire for peace and happiness. So then that our mind develops on such way. First just say prayers, may everybody have peace and happiness. Then next, even though everybody desire for peace and happiness, but actually everyone is suffering. So to free from suffering, develop karuna, compassion. So may everybody free from suffering. When we practice this way, then our mind becomes very sensitive not to hurt others. And that becomes real peace, harmony in the mind. So first ourselves, mind, practice this. Then slowly can help others. Now, this is general for all the Buddhists, regardless who they are. Now for Mahayana, this becomes very important cause, foundation to develop bodhicitta, the mind of the enlightenment. Without the practice of loving kindness, compassion, there's no foundation, basis to cultivate bodhicitta. So, the reason because real to have complete peace, happiness, and to free from suffering is actual when you become Buddha. See, the Buddhahood is the state where no suffering exists, only peace, happiness. Is called unafflicted peace and happiness. See? So to achieve that state, then bodhicitta is the consummate path. Oh. So that's the difference. So in Theravada, there's no inspiration to cultivate bodhicitta. Oh. But there's a practice of loving kindness, compassion. It's called the four Brahma. What's called Brahma gate. What's called?
Oh.
No. Brahmahood or Brahma gate. It is Brahma Vihara. That's right. Brahma Vihara.
Rinpoche, I got one question.
Okay.
Yesterday, you said all experiences are suffering, and today we learned that suffering is all pervasive suffering, suffering of change and suffering of suffering.
Yes.
Okay, and then you said that we must not be negative thinking.
Yes.
We have to think positively and so that we can have more benefit.
That's right.
And that because of impermanence,
Yes.
we can get better and better.
That's right.
And this is today's realizations for us.
Yes.
Is that correct? So the realization that the Buddha is precious, human life is precious, isn't that something which is not suffering? We feel joyful that there is a way out, that Buddha is ready. So when you say all experiences are suffering, does it not contradict what you say? You're saying today when you teach us that human life, our human rebirth is precious, and that there is positive where we can change.
Very good.
That is my question. So how should I think?
Yeah,
After learning this today, positive, and then what you say yesterday, which is and then the suffering of suffering.
Yes. Very good. Yes. That's how you debate, you see. you said this, and this is how it contradicts. First of all, right from the beginning of this book, at the beginning, who are the one confused? In this question asked, see, the beings in the three worlds, in the three realms. See, first of all, you understand that. I'm not saying Buddha is suffering, no. See, that's the first you have to understand. Anybody who are in the three worlds, the three dhadus, the Kama dhatu, Rupa dhatu, Arupa dhatu. See, then one has all experience of suffering is what is said there, All in the book said, what's the error of the confusion? What's wrong with the confusion? It said, because all the experiences are suffering. In relation to this, then I explained the three types of suffering. What I said was, it doesn't mean constantly we're pain. What I said was there's a suffering of suffering. There's a suffering of change. The suffering of change is temporary joy, pleasure, happiness. That doesn't last long in that way. So it's a suffering of change. And pervasive, or the suffering of condition, what I said was, no matter where we are, I'm a good, bad, whatever, so we are still under the condition of suffering. See, so these are what I explained. Now, when I said should feel good, means when you are suffering, don't say I'm so much suffering. My suffering is wonderful. It's a purification. It gives me wisdom to realize what the cause of suffering. What's the nature of the samsara? You know, the pain is there, but you have a positive thought. See, even though I'm within in samsara, but I'm so fortunate. I have this Buddhist teaching, the wisdom, how to get out of this samsara, out of this suffering, you know. So that's what I mean. Make sense? Okay, that's how I conduct myself.
So meaning Rinpoche, you are saying that they are what you call, since there's a change, means our experiences can also be happiness.
Oh yes.
Okay, that's my question. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Rinpoche, with reference to the first topic of suffering of condition.
Yes.
Supposing in the context of a doctor, he treated a patient.
Yes.
Okay, whatever temporarily or whatever how long it is,
Yes.
there's a relief, there's a cure, or whatever in different form. Is the patient going to interpret the joy and the relief as a suffering of condition in that interpretation?
No, it is not suffering of condition. It is free from the suffering of suffering.
Thank you, Rinpoche. And another question to it.
Yes, yes.
Can the doctor interpret it as a suffering of condition by the doctor or instead by the patient? Which is which, rather?
I don't know
Rinpoche.
if the doctor has a skill to free from the suffering of condition. Doctor may have ability, method to free from the suffering of suffering.
So then the doctor will have the suffering of suffering then.
Yes. So to free from the suffering of condition, we need Dharma. Yes.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Yes. Okay, first please take a deep breath and just be here in this place. Relax our mind and make our mind as spacious as the nature of this space, and just relax there for a few moments. So from this state, see, today whatever we have learned, understood, all the virtues, benefit we got, we created, dedicate for all the sentient beings to have happiness, joy, and free from all the undesirable conditions. And may they attain complete Buddhahood.
愿以此功德普及于一切众生与我等，皆共成佛道。阿弥陀佛。